All right, well, starting off the day, I jacked this thing up. I'm gonna go ahead and realign the front because it was super towed out. I don't know how that happened, so I went in and I fixed that. So now it should be straight enough for it to roll. Fix the alignment on that car, push that car back. For whatever reason, this wheel was locked up. That was kind of weird, so it didn't want to roll very well at all. We were wondering why it was so hard to push. I guess that would probably be why. So we got it to about here. It needs to go back probably another 10 feet, just so I can get it as close to the wall as I can, so I can get the other Galaxy next to it. So then I can kind of have all three of these things in the same spot, which would be kind of cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and have a couple friends come over and help me push this thing back another 10 feet. And then we're gonna go ahead and roll that one off and get it out here. So, well, I would say sunlight, but this is the one day randomly, out of nowhere, it decides to rain, which makes 0 sense to me. So I guess I gotta deal with that. But I think it's about to stop raining. I don't really know, I hope so. Then we're gonna roll the car out, get some good photos of it. So it'll be nice to see it out here for the first time in like a year, which is pretty crazy to think about. But man, that thing looks good. It is actually sitting on the drive shaft, or not like sitting on it, it's like a 1/4 inch away from hitting the drive shaft, so it's undrivable at this height. So I needed to jack it up at least 2 inches, probably as a realistic height. But I think 1 inch is at the axle will give us a good amount at the drive shaft. But I'm not really sure. I gotta play with it a little bit. But I think for now it's good enough to roll. So it will roll back there and roll forward again. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Damn, look at that difference. That is weird. Holy crap, that thing is low. Oh my gosh, it's like this camera lens kind of changes it up a little bit, but two of the same cars, one's not lower and one is. That is crazy. Look at that. Damn, that thing looks sick. I got all three of my cars in one shot. That's crazy, who would have thought? And they're all broken. Oh my gosh, that's crazy to see. I love it. Look at that. That's something to be proud of right there. So drive shaft was hitting the floor, so I pulled the drive shaft out. So now it's just puking tranny fluid absolutely everywhere. I'm just gonna use that as an excuse to say it needed to be fixed. You can see the 4-link bars kind of poking through. All right, I'm gonna post up some photos of this thing, get some photos of these two bad boys. Oh man, I gotta throw the grill in this thing. See that big block hiding in there? So badass. That is so cool to see. Don't let anybody tell you can't build something if you think you can. I built this with not very much money and not really that much skill, to be quite honest. I kind of learned as I went. I never did a 4-link, never did sheet metal, never did a lot of things in this car. I learned as I went, and I found errors and problems with the car and I fixed them. Don't let anyone tell you can't build something. If you think you can do it, do it. And this is proof of that. And look at the stance on this thing. Those are not very expensive wheels. There's not very expensive parts in this car. There's not a lot of bougie things all over it. It's pretty budget friendly. And I built it myself, which is really cool to see. And a lot of things on it I designed and made work, and they're really one-off to the car. Such things like the gas door, the tranny tunnel, the way the 4-link's set up, things like that I have not seen too much in Galaxies. So it was something I was really, really proud of, and I think the outcome speaks for itself, that's for sure. All right, well, I think that'll do it. I gotta get as many photos over here as I can. My dog's running around, just chasing me, my little guard dog. Okay, never mind. Not okay. Well, never mind. So I'm pretty happy with this. I just got to get a couple shots because it's weird because it's hard to take photos over there in the back corner because you have the bars from the canopy in the way the whole time. So I just had to get over here to try to take as many photos as I could. Isn't that right, Bella? I'm happy with it. It looks good. I think I'm gonna roll it back over there. Like I said, I had to pull the drive shaft out just to get it in. But yeah, everything's all done, buttoned up pretty much for the most part. Doors open and closed right. Floors are all seamed up. We'll do a little bit more paint work in here, not too much. But you can see inside there, I'll open the trunk up. You can see our crossbar in there. Coilover's looking really good. That's a piece of 2-inch 3/16 wall that comes across, 3/16 overlay on the frame. 1/4-inch tabs, they're braced on the sides. That thing should never come out of this car. That's kind of the whole point. It should be super strong. You should have no issues with this thing driving down the road and being safe. And then this one over here, got the quarter panels all mocked up on it, all welded up. We haven't really finished it. We kind of just welded it all and then left it. I did some primer work. I'm not quite done with the roof right here. There's a lead seam here, so I just primered it, but I did this part. And then up in here, you can see I did this whole skin. It's starting to kind of rust because it's been sitting. This car's coming out pretty good. We're gonna start transitioning into this car pretty soon once this one goes to paint. So we'll actually start fitting the motor in this one, because this one, I kind of realized I'd rather not spend forever trying to get this car looking pretty like I am with this one. I think this car, we're just gonna rattle can it and put the motor and tranny in this thing, put the cage in it, and just drive it. So that's what this one's gonna be. It's gonna be nice underneath. The suspension and the chassis and all that stuff's gonna be really cool. But the paint and finish work, I wanna drive these cars. I'm tired of them sitting over here. So this one is gonna be completely different than this. This is also gonna have one hell of a nasty motor, whereas this one just kind of is a cruiser. Sorry if I'm just walking in circles talking. I'm trying to use up my little bit of time I have with these cars. We gotta push them back before it starts raining. So, of course, the one day I choose to drive these things over here, or move them over here, I get this. This way. Anyway, there's the exhaust. Stop. Dang, I didn't even hear you pull up. Thing's so quiet.
Oh yeah, and there's a thing sticking out the middle of the trans tunnel.
I know, I noticed that. Who would have thought you'd get an overdrive?
Yeah, it's like a 7-speed.
So you already took it out. What happened?
Well,
Did you break it already?
No, I didn't break it. It just turns out it's too much truck, too little trans.
Yeah, you think you're gonna break it?
I think I'm gonna break it soon. It's still operable, but I could hear it kind of wanting to whine.
Yeah.
So it was pretty bad.
Damn. I mean, this thing probably weighs 5,000 pounds. So
Yeah,
that doesn't surprise me. Well, it's still driving. Your exhaust still in it now? Oh wow. They bent you a whole tip and everything. Wow, that's a pretty nice job.
The lowest part is the piece of the tube of the actual muffler.
Yeah.
Itself.
All right, gonna take a little ride in this thing. It's gonna be weird because now it doesn't. Last time I was in, it's got a totally different transmission in it because you know those are things you just change every week.
Yeah, I wasn't too thrilled with how my 3-speed was whining after I just drove it like a normal person.
Yeah, normal. Yeah, you don't even beat on it, and it was.
Oh yeah.
Wow, this thing's a vacuum cleaner now. Wow, that's really quiet.
It's very quiet. But it's what I wanted.
That is nice. I am jealous. Imagine having an F-Series truck you can actually have a conversation in.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have sound deadening. And this is loud as it gets.
Oh, that's nice.
It's just.
I like that. So your new to you transmission's doing pretty good at least?
Yeah. My newly used original.
Yeah. Nice. It's actually short throw to third.
Everything but the the granny gear and reverse shift really short.
Yeah. So what's the fourth gear in this?
1-to-1.
Oh, okay. So it's not an overdrive. You just wanted the granny gear.
Yeah, I just wanted the granny gear and a heavy duty trans.
Yeah. Now it'll actually hopefully handle this heavy truck.
Yeah. It should. It's meant for an FE and this truck, so it should be good enough. Yeah. I
had a truck just like this with the same transmission and everything, but it drove horrendously. And then I ended up selling it because I have too many projects. Yeah, I hooked it up with Sean's old bench seat, so now I got a new seat for this thing. Hopefully it'll look a little better. Better than a blue, at least, I think. So that'll look good. I stole back my plate from Sean. This thing's pretty rad. That's just fitting. Yeah, that would look good.
Cool thing about having friends with the same truck.
So you can steal parts.
You can steal parts and you can see what other parts look like.
Yeah, right? Isn't that great? I love that.
Has oil pressure.
She has oil pressure. Got a custom stereo in it, surround sound.
Oh yes. Not a sponsor, but I'm open. I'm open, JBL. If you're watching this video, I am totally down. I use these in all of my cars because 1, the stereos don't work in my cars because they're like older than my dad, and 2, they actually sound kind of good. So
these are kind of nice.
Hit a boy up.
Better than a big hole. Nice.
Yeah. Like honestly, if you do ever want this back, it's yours.
It's fine. So he's just gonna casually take that to Arizona tonight, he said. Apparently they want to go to some junkyard tomorrow, so he's gonna, it's like 6 something at night, or well, not night, but 6 in the afternoon. It's about to get dark in like an hour. And he's gonna go all the way home. He's gonna drive about an hour, load up some crap, and then he's gonna drive to like, I don't even know where, somewhere in Arizona tonight in that. And that's a 6-hour drive. So more power to him, guy's driving his truck. That's awesome. All right guys, so I think I know what I'm actually gonna do today. I'm trying to like be semi-productive. I know there's a bunch of things I need to do to the car. So I think the biggest thing that needs to happen is I need to fix the ride height because it's way too low. I mean, it looks really cool. If you're into that kind of stuff, it looks all cool, dumped out and whatnot. But as you can see, drive shaft is laying on the floor. I added like 2 inches, 2 or 3 inches into the floor, and it still rubs, which is cool. So it definitely needs to come up. So I have 0 preload in the springs. So I think what I'm gonna do is jack back the car up, go ahead and set the back of the car on jacks, droop the axle out so there's no spring pressure or spring tension on the springs, and go ahead and crank a bunch of preload into these and see if I can get it to come up higher and get it up as much as I can. And then if not, I have a position on the 4-link. I can actually raise it 2 inches regardless because it's a 2 inches lower mount. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. I just adjusted the with the spanner wrench, the preload and the springs. I put, so like let's say there's about 4 inches of preload in total you can adjust. I was all the way on the left side. I put about 2 inches in it. So right dead center, about halfway where it's supposed to be. So now it should be technically a reasonable ride height where I can actually put the drive shaft back in it. So I'm gonna put it on the ground, check it. So I gotta pull the jack stands out. Because before I dropped the car literally on the jack, the gas tank was just smashed the top of the jack. So right now, I just raised it 2 inches from where it was, just by looking at it, just by putting preload in the spring. So before I literally dropped the gas tank on top of the jack, it's like really hard to see under there. But you can see how now I can roll the jack underneath here. Before it was touching it, so that's a good thing. So it's stiffer. This car's stiff, but it's on coilovers, so it's okay. But it still moves. There's also no weight in the back, so I'm expecting it to be springy. Yeah, when I put weight in it and you put a full, 16 gallons of gas, put 2 people in the back seat, bunch of crap in the trunk, glass, it should ride pretty good. And if it's this stiff, just by putting preload in it, that's good, because that means I can take preload back out of it and it should ride a little bit better. But I think once it's all weighted down with all this stuff in the back, we'll be good. So. All right guys, next morning, car's on the ground, looks pretty good. Ride height seems perfect, which is awesome. So the next thing I'm gonna do is work on paneling the inside of the trunk, which needs to happen. So unfortunately, this is kind of a weird shape. It's just a straight line, and then the floor of the trunk is very weird. There's a lot of weird curves, kind of looks like a half pipe ramp with a tabletop in the middle. So I have to panel this in from the front side and the back side. So what I have is some 18 gauge steel. This is just cold roll steel. This is stuff I make pretty much anything sheet metal related out of is 18 gauge cold roll steel. You can get that pretty much at any metal supply place ever. That's the most common stuff you'll find. Then I have a piece of masonite board. So this is I think this is 1/8 inch thick. Yep, 1/8 inch thick masonite. Masonite's like a more pliable, firmer, easier to work with cardboard basically. And you can trim and shave this stuff with power tools and make it actually the shape you want versus cardboard just frays. So masonite board, it's what like doors are made out of in your house. And this stuff is just way easier to work with. I have some of it laying around. So what I'm gonna do here is take the masonite. Hopefully I have enough, I think I do. And so that kind of covers it like so. So basically what I'm gonna do is measure from the furthest edge I cut to the furthest edge I cut. So that's so I know the maximum width this thing needs to be, or technically the minimum, because if I go any shorter, I'm gonna have a gap. So I'm gonna measure the width, go ahead and cut it down, make it basically a square, cut this little corner piece off, make a big fat rectangle, and start with the top piece. Once I get my top piece, I can start paneling in the sides. right, so you can see we got our template made, sitting all in there all nice. So you can kind of see I basically raised it up and made the floor flat. It's a little bit easier, I think, that way. So as I come around here, basically what happens is it just steps the floor up, makes it all flush, and then you can see I went ahead and I traced out along the bottom, so I'll cut that off, and then I'll basically butt weld everything all the way around. But I think that looks pretty good. I think that'll be decently easy to put carpet over once it's all in there. It'll look nice and clean. There's no reason to access it from the top. You can get to everything from the bottom still. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this thing out, cut the lines that I marked on the bottom, and then transfer this thing over to metal, and then build it all again, basically. Alright, so I got basically I bent everything by hand. I don't have a sheet metal brake. I don't have a lot of jigsaw tools. I have a jigsaw, but it's a really old Sears one, so it barely works. I don't have any of the right tools to do what I'm doing, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. So basically I use the side of that workbench, some clamps, and then some metalworking hammers to kind of get my 90-degree bend. The fact I didn't cut the hell out of my hands doing that was mind-blowing, because that stuff's, this is 22 gauge. So normally it's 18 gauge, but I just don't have any. But because I made it out of one piece and bowing it like that, it gives it a better structure, so it should be fine. But it's pretty sharp and it's thin enough to work with, so I went ahead and I bent it, put a 90-degree bend in it, and all the way across. It fits in there pretty well, actually. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'll go around and stitch weld the perimeter and kind of use hammers and flatheads and kind of get it all where I want it. But I think before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and take it to a buddy's shop and try to put a bead roll in it. I think I might do just one bead roll up and over this, and then I think I might just do a circle or a rectangle on top. Just kind of give it some triangulation, because I don't want it to oil can. Like, let's say I'm going into a parking lot and the chassis wants to twist. I don't want the thing to just pop and be super annoying. And I don't want it to be like tinging and making sort of a bunch of different metal noises that I don't want to listen to. So I want to make sure it has some triangulation so it doesn't pop or warp or oil can or do any sort of weird things. I think I'm going to pop it back out, take it to a buddy's shop, see if I can get a bead roll put into it, and then pop it back in and weld it. Yeah, if you guys don't necessarily know what this piece is, these allow you to basically get all the way up to, I think, 130 degrees, a little bit more. You can basically go all the way up. And sheet metal is like super easy as long as 8-foot pieces, which is what you get sheet metal in off the truck. If you order it from like a metal supply place, the biggest sheet I think you can get is 8 inches long, or 8 feet. God, did I say inches the whole time? 8 feet long. Wow, look at that. Oh, I messed up right here. I gotta flatten that back out. Whatever. So on the inside, you can see a nice, dude, I haven't bead rolled in years, so this is just a crappy radius, but same with up here. These aren't consistent bends. This would honestly be throwaway work if you were considered a real sheet metal guy that bead rolled all day, or aluminum tin guy. This is pretty crappy, but it's going in the trunk. It's gonna get carpet over it. You probably won't even see this, but now it doesn't oil can. Like it used to pop and do a bunch of weird things. I can't pop this thing no matter which way I flex it, which is why we added triangulation into this. So now it's way stronger. And once I stitch weld this thing in, it should never move. So yeah, we're good now. So this gap I'll push and this will close up. It's just because of the way I bent it. But that looks freaking sick. I like that. It's a shame you won't be able to see it. Sick. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. I'm pretty happy with this thing. It looks actually really cool. It kind of reminds me of something you would see in like a specialty like hot rod shop where you have like a super good tin man that would make some cool bead rolled panel. This thing came out awesome. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not really one for bead rolling pieces, but I say it looks pretty dang good. I just did one bead roll across the front and then a little rectangle piece in the top. That came out really, really good once it's all sanded and painted. It's just tacked in right now. You'll notice a little gap right here. So if I move the flashlight, there's no gap. It just needs to be pushed up and then re-welded. So I'll do that tomorrow. I'm really not into the mood to work on this thing right now. It's just one of those days where, you know, you kind of work on your car all day and then something happens and you're just like, I don't want to work on cars like at all anymore. I'm just like super burnt out. That's like how I'm feeling right now. So I just don't want to work on it. I want to go relax the rest of the day, edit this video so you guys have something to watch tomorrow, and then I'll pick it up. Fresh new day tomorrow and I'll get working on it again. So it's just one of those days, but you know how it goes. Back looks really good too as well. Pretty happy with that. So you can see the whole piece up through here. It would be kind of cool also if I, unfortunately this car's gonna get limo tinted, but if this whole panel was all clear and you could actually see everything. If I did a cantilever in this car, the one thing I would have done is this exact same thing right here, and then the cantilever would have gone up on top of this plate, but oh well, that's for another car maybe. But I'm pretty happy with that. The car's really taking shape now. You can definitely see all the work that's been done to it. And it's sitting pretty. We're getting close for sure. So I just gotta weld that up tomorrow. I'll weld it up and seam seal it so it's all good. Throw some paint on it. And then I think I'm gonna start running some wiring, get the dash apart and get the dash ready and prep for paint. And just start running the wiring harness. And once I get it to run on its own, you know, I'll move it around the yard a little bit and drive it up and down the street a couple times, make sure it'll work, start and stop. And then on the trailer it goes for paint. So I'm pretty excited, you guys. Thank you guys a ton for the support. It really does mean a lot to me. Hope you guys went on to enjoy today's video. Leave a like on it if you did enjoy. Thanks for Maddie for helping me film today. I appreciate it. She's always helping me out. And for the jacket. Jacket's helping me a lot too. But yeah, I'll see you guys.